Now you're recording. How about that? All right, so we're going to do a normal takeoff, and we're going to depart runway 27. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra, departing runway 27. Delaware Airpark. So a normal takeoff means that we are going to...
turning left downwind, runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
Means that we're going to put our throttle, once we're stopped straight down, looking straight down the runway, we're going to take our throttle while holding the brakes, put it 2,000 RPMs, and check and see if all our engine things are green. We're going to call airspeed alive. Once we see the airspeed starts to climb, we're going to rotate at 53 knots, which means we're going to pull up at 23 knots, and then we're going to climb out at 75 knots, because that is our best climb. No, that's not our best climb, it's our best rate climb. So 2,000 RPMs. So all of our engine gauges are green. Full throttle, little right rudder, correct for the left turning tendencies, straight down the runway, sorry. So airspeed's alive, we're climbing through 40 knots, coming through 50, rotate. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, that's a takeoff. So we're climbing. So we got a bit of a tailwind right now. Kind of kicking me out. Making things a little difficult on me.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta Sierra, turning left base, runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
Oh! Man, it's getting a little turbulent. So what we're going to do is we're going to climb up to 600 feet, and we're going to turn out and keep in the traffic pattern. So we are at 600 feet, it's getting bumpy up here. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra, turning crosswind for runway 27 Delaware Airpark. And we got some birds, so we're going to just swoop around those guys. We're going to stay out of their way, because that would not be good. We're going to keep turning.
Wingsfield, helicopter 194 November Tango.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta Sierra, final runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
1,500 west to east wings.
Wings traffic, November 7329 Park, so I'm in the pattern here.
So for the pattern, we're going to stay at about 900 feet, and we're about 100 feet high. This is for downwind. We want to be at about 900 feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower the RPMs to about 1,700, and we're going to stay here.
Aircraft in the pattern for wings. Where are you located?
I think I just found the runway on the approach for 24 wings.
Roger, we've got you in sight. Yeah, looks like you're on long final, about a mile or two.
So it's getting pretty turbulent. We're about 900 feet now, so we're going to keep this descent. We're about 85 knots, which is good. So we're almost abeam our landing point. So we're going to add some flaps, point the nose down, which is good, getting a little bumpy. Wait till the runway is in between our tail and our wing, and then we're going to turn base to make our call. We're about 750 feet. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra is turning base for runway 27, Delaware Airpark. We're going to add a little power. We're at 750 feet. We're going to turn base. Trying to round this out. I know my instructor hates it, but that's 700 feet. We're still descending about 50. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra is turning final for runway 27. We're going to add a notch of flaps in, take some.
Delta Sierra, turning left, crosswind, runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
And we're about 500 feet, which is good. Add some more flaps in, take away the power, keep the nose pointed down.
Sussex County traffic, Bonanza 2764 Alpha, now 10 miles to the southwest for landing.
We're coming in about 70 knots, lots of chatter, nose down for the runway, which which is good. 70 knots, a little fast, but it's windy.
County Unicom, request airfield advisory, 64 Alpha.
All right, that was a nice landing. That was really nice, really soft, which is nice. That was a good landing. That was a very good landing. Actually, against my better judgment, didn't round out. Rounded out pretty late. But, you know, all's all good. All right, so we're going to be coming back up, making sure you're still recording. All right.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta Sierra, turning left base, runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
Alright, Mom, if you're going to be watching this, that is Andrew Palka, if you remember correctly, telling you about him. But, so, right now, we're doing our after landing checklist. So, I actually thought that I had this thing recording my first takeoff, and I was a lot more informative than I figured out I wasn't. Right at the ground run-up, and it was a bit rushed. So this time I'm probably going to be a little bit better. So after landing checklist, stop aircraft, 1,000 RPMs, which we're at. Flaps retract, already did that. Electric fuel pump off. Landing light.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta Sierra, final runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
Mixture lean for taxi. So Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra is taxiing to runway 27, Delaware Airpark. So what we're going to do is this time we're going to do a short field takeoff. And short field and soft field takeoffs are real fun. So we're going to keep on going. So for a short field takeoff, what you're doing is you're simulating that obviously there's a short runway and that there's an obstacle in front of you. So the runway that you're using has, let's say, trees, which we do, if you can see, but they're not in immediate, we're not in immediate danger, so we don't need to take any precautions, but we're just simulating that, you know, in case a runway had a fence too close to it or something like that, you do your best rate takeoff. And so what that includes is you add in the first 2 notches of flaps, which is 25 degrees of flaps. And that actually, what that does is it adds camber to the wing. And it also adds drag, but at that angle for this wing and this aircraft, it actually adds more lift than it does drag. So it's, I don't want to say trade-off, but it's a technique used to add more lift to the wing. So since it adds more drag and more camber to the wing, we're able to take off and climb out at a slower speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in those 2 flaps. We're going to rotate at 52 knots, not 53 this time. That's right when we're starting to get some lift on the wings, and then we're going to climb out at 65 knots. And it's a bit of a sensation. They're really fun. It's a fine line. It feels like you're almost in a hot air balloon. It feels like you're in a hot air balloon almost. Hold on. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra taxiing cross runway 27, Delaware Airpark. And so it feels like you're in a hot air balloon because the camber of the wing is so high, and the angle of attack added to the wing by those flaps is so high. It feels like you're almost being raised up from below versus pointing your nose up. You almost have to keep your nose level because the camber of the wing is so great. And they're really fun. So we're going to do that. So we're going to stop here and we're going to do a checklist for our short field. Okay, short field, no obstacle takeoff. Flaps at 25 degrees. So that's 2, that's 1 right there, 2 right there. 3 is 45, so we just want 2. Alright, so flaps, nose wheel, what we're going to do is we're going to keep our nose wheel straight, directional gyro, check to the runway heading. This is when we're on the runway. We're going to apply and hold the brakes, throttle 2,000, engine gauges check and make sure they're all green, power it full. We're going to release the brakes, and I told you airspeed alive, again, rotate at 52, and after braking ground to, rotate at 52, and then after braking the ground, we're going to take off at 65. And so Andrew Parker is actually turning base right now.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta 0, turning left base, runway 27, Delaware Airpark.
Yeah. So we're going to wait for him. So there's short field with no obstacle. Short field is like a short runway you're taking off, you know, on a short runway for some reason. And so what you actually do is you get off the ground and you keep your nose down for 75 knots with the flaps. So what that does is that allows you to climb out at your normal speed, but just in case it takes you a while to get off the ground, you are prepared to make a best angle climb at 65 knots or 75 knots. So, but we're going to simulate that we have an obstacle in front of us. So we're going to climb out to Delaware Airpark. Oh, yikes, man! He is getting bullied by that wind. Right ahead of me, I'm watching him. He's crabbing a little bit. He's dipping. Not a very stable landing. And it is pretty tough. The winds are coming at 330, which is 60-degree difference in the runway heading. And so it's a bit of a crosswind. He actually did all right. I wonder if his instructor took care of that. So we're last couple times they've done a touch and go, a transition and a go around. So we're just looking out the window right now to see what they're doing. Looks like they're taking off. All right, so they're taking off. Going to give them some time. So we have our flaps. So that's the short field. So we're going to simulate that we have an obstacle in front of us, so we need to get up off the ground. So we're going to climb out at 65 knots, rotate at 52. And I don't know how good of a job that GoPro is going to do at capturing the sensation, but it's almost like being weightless, quite frankly. So Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra, departing runway 27, Delaware Airpark. Oh. Turn the fuel pumps on. There we go. Fuel pump on. Mixture rich.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta 0, turning left, crosswind 127.
2,000 RPMs. So all of our instruments are green. So full throttle, release, and we are taking off. Taking off. So we're at 40 knots. Rotate. And there's our short field takeoff. And it's really, it's a good time. And it really does feel like I'm being pushed up. And so it's almost a fight to keep the nose down because this thing just wants to climb, climb, climb. So right now, we're usually only at about 100 to 200 feet, and right now we're at 350, and we are being bullied by this wind since we have added camber, which is added surface area almost to the wing. We're catching just about everything. It's like a big old parachute behind us. So we're at 500 feet, so I'm going to lower one notch of flaps, so we're at 600, we'll start turning out. Man, this wind is getting me. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra, turning crosswind for only 27 Delaware Airpark. Take out the second notch. All right, perfect. So we're climbing out at 75, which is good. We're going to keep going. We're going about 80 knots. So for a short field, short field, what we're going to want to do is we're going to, all of our landing speeds are going to be 5 knots, 5 knots less than what they usually are for the, so for downwind, we're going to want to be 80 knots, which we're doing right about now. We're just above 1,000 feet. What we're going to do is going to lower our throttle. We're going to put that down. We're at about 1,100. We're going to bring that way down and just wait. So we are descending about 80, we're at about 80 knots, descending about 950 feet. Delaware Airpark, 496 Delta Sierras, and downwind for runway 27 Delaware Airpark. So we're actually descending very quickly, so we're going to add some throttle. So we're about 800 feet, which is right about where we want to be, abeam with our runway. So short field, what we're going to do is we're going to basically land 5 knots, at 5 knots slower, and we're going to then, okay, so we want to drop those flaps, 1.
Delaware Airpark 497 Delta Sierra, final runway 27 Delaware Airpark.
Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra is turning base for runway 27 Delaware Airpark. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this out. 75 knots, which is good speed. A little fast for what we're trying to achieve here, but no problem. So we're in slow flight, bit of a tailwind. We're about 650 feet, which is good. There's a seagull out there. So we're about 600 feet. We're going to add another notch of flaps. Delaware Airpark 496 Delta Sierra, turning final for runway 27 Delaware Airpark. So we're going to take some of that speed out. So we're going at 65 knots, which is right where we want to be. We're going to add another notch of flaps. We're at 70 knots. Coming in a little fast, so we're going to take away this airspeed. Just point the nose down for the runway. 300 feet, 70 knots. We're crabbing a good bit. Little power. Keep the nose down for the runway. Keep the nose down. Oh man, shaky a bit.